Okay, would you guys like me to call a meeting to order at this time then?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call a meeting of April 1st, 2020 to order. To start out with, I believe, Mr. Pino, you have a preamble to read into the record here to start with.
I do. As many of you citizens out there may be aware, we are doing a meeting here in a virtual format. This is going to be a first for us, so bear with us. We're still learning how to work this, but there's a couple of legal issues that we've got to address before we launch the meeting. So I'm going to read this preamble. Good evening. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen has declared an emergency exists and is invoking the provision of RSA 91A 2 Roman numeral 3 lowercase b. Federal and state and local officials have determined that gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community. In its continuing effort to combat the spread of COVID-19, in concurring with the determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operations of the town government and government services, which are vital to the public safety confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of the body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public assessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner, under unique circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. Any person found disturbing this meeting will be asked to cease disruption. Should the disruptive matter continue, thereafter, that person will be removed from the meeting. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done in a roll call manner. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call of Board of Selectmen members in attendance. With each member stating their name, please state whether or not you were in the room, if there is anybody in the room with you, which is required under the right to know law. Brad, I'll hand it back to you for that roll call vote.
Okay, thank you. I'll start off. Brad Harriman is present. I'm in a room in the house here, and I am alone in the room in the house. There is nobody with me.
Dave Bowers here, alone in my house, alone in the room, right? That is, nobody with me.
Okay, I'll go next. Linda Murray. I'm at my house on Brackett Road in Wolfeboro, and no one is in the room with me.
Hi everybody, Paul O'Brien. I'm at home in my room alone, and nobody's with me.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Next on the agenda would be, I just lost it here. This technology is great. Do we have hopefully not a need for any non-public this evening, Mr. Town Manager?
Based on the method of operations we're using at this time, no non-public meeting will take place.
Okay, thank you. Next is consideration of minutes of March 4th, 2020. Do we have any comments or? Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, I have a couple of corrections. On page 1, non-public RSA 91-A:3, 2, and there should be an E there, little E. On page 4, last sentence, I asked for a sketch, and it it has been in other, and it should say license agreement. Again, on the next page, fourth paragraph down, last sentence, first word should be license. And that's all I have.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments or corrections?
Brad, I move to
See.
approve as amended.
Second,
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, should we do a roll call vote on all our votes here tonight?
That is correct.
Okay. I'll shout out, I vote yes to accept the minutes as amended.
Dave Bowers.
Linda Murray,
accepts.
yes.
Paul O'Brien, yes.
Dave Bowers, you next.
Dave accepts me.
Okay. So we have a vote to accept those. We have no public hearings. So next on the agenda would be our bulk vote.
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
gonna take a motion. Yes,
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm requesting that under section B, the intent cut be tabled until a later meeting. We've got some more work that we've got to do relative to that, which was discovered today.
I'll make that motion to table intent to cut B under bulk vote.
Second by Paul O'Brien.
okay, we have a second, so we'll call for a vote on that. Brad Harriman, I vote yes to postpone the intent to cut, to remove it from the bulk vote. Linda, you next.
I vote yes.
Paul,
This is Paul, I vote yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Okay, we have a vote on that. Now I'd entertain a motion to approve the bulk vote as amended.
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Dave Bowers. Do I have a second?
second by Paul.
Paul O'Brien seconds. Brad Harriman, I'll vote yes to this. Linda?
Yes.
Dave, yes.
Paul? Okay,
Paul
Dave,
votes
yes,
yes.
Paul?
Yep, I vote yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Board appointments, we're apparently going to be doing those on the next meeting on April 15th, is that correct?
Yeah, so Amy will be reaching out to you with the list of the current board appointments and what positions everybody is currently within. Usually this is done in the first meeting in April. You're advised about it in the second meeting in March. However, we didn't have a second meeting in March. So we're just one Board of Selectmen meeting behind on this. So the intent here would be you'll receive the list of boards where you currently are appointed. And then at the next Board of Selectmen's meeting, those appointments will be made.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to new business then. First item for discussion is emergency management status report. Assume that's going to be you, Mr. Pino, filling us up, bring us up to date.
So we've got the bulk of the emergency management staff on board here this evening. I'm going to give you a brief overview of where we're at today, and then I'm going to hand this off to Chief Scanzi, and he will be actually the various members of the emergency operations team give the community a brief update. Just to give the townspeople a little bit of an idea, in September of 2018, after about 6 months worth of work with a variety of stakeholders, we adopted the new Wolfeboro Emergency Operations Plan. This plan went through a variety of different emergencies which may affect the town of Wolfeboro. Ironically, in one of the special hazard index is actually a pandemic. When you look at the pandemic, It is pretty threatening to our community. I think we're all beginning to realize the threat that this has to our community, to our county, and to the world that we live. At this point, I think the emergency management team has done an absolutely amazing job at coming together and really making this work. So this gives us an opportunity right now to give our citizens an idea of exactly what is happening with your emergency management team. The emergency management team is in constant contact with the state of New Hampshire, and the state of New Hampshire is obviously in contact with the federal government. So this is working quite well right now. Without any further ado, I'd like to hand it over to our fire chief and emergency management director, Norm Scanzi, for a little bit more in-depth information to the various functional areas within the incident management system. Chief?
Thank you. And I would also invite those members of the ICS team, including Shelley Rondo, Matt Sullivan, Chief Rondo, Chief Zotti, Captain Livy, Troy Neff, and Janet Williamson, if they're on, to come on at this time too. And we'll be asking them for a brief statement. My name is Norm Scanzi. I'm the new fire chief for the town of Wolfeboro. I've been here since November 27th, and I'm also the town's emergency management director. Tonight, the Board of Selectmen asked us to assemble the incident management team, which is approximately 20 town employees who are serving as part of the town's command, general, and emergency support staff. And we've been in place now for about 3 weeks with a partial emergency operations center activation. Our town emergency plan describes how we would have an activation with the state declaring the emergency, federal government declaring the emergency, and now the selectmen declaring a local emergency. We put the team together and got the emergency operations center up and running. We've been meeting about twice a week collectively, and then we've been meeting as individuals, assignments, doing tasks in between. A lot of the time of the 20 people has been absorbed with, obviously, with the COVID-19 problem. The command staff is made up of functional areas that were described in our emergency plan, as the town manager described to you previously. And basically under the tenets of RSA 21P:37, which is the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Statute, that's the authority that we're operating under. The statute provides the governor of the state to declare the emergency, and then the director of Homeland Security is authorized to cooperate both with the federal government and with towns. And that's exactly what's going on right now. Basically, our objectives are to monitor the impact of COVID-19 relative to the town, and to play out this plan so that if things progress and became more difficult for the community, we would be prepared to be in place more often and around the clock if necessary. We're also running the town. The town is running as it always does under the town manager and the Board of Selectmen. The only thing the emergency operations plan and the ICS overhead, the incident command team, is doing is addressing the COVID-19 problem. That's our sole purpose. The rest of the town is functioning as it always does. So with that, I just want to say to you that we're getting the full cooperation of everybody. All of the different department heads that have been activated to be part of this team are working very well together. We're being supported extremely well by the Board of Selectmen and the town manager. We're in constant contact with the state EOC, and we're working very closely with the school, the Kingswood School District, Brewster Academy, and of course, Huggins Hospital, who we've been working with on almost a daily basis, and our ambulance service, Stewart's Ambulance. So at this time, I would like to call on one of our key emergency support functions, which is health and medical, which is being headed up by Shelley Rondo, who's the town's health officer. And Shelley's role as health officer is to take care of all things relative to health in the community. So in this particular instance, this emergency, Shelley's the person who's really a lead member for us. So I think that if she could just give us a brief overview of, you know, where we started with this and what's been going on, we'd appreciate that, Shelley. Is a PD, can you guys hear us? Matt, can you check with the PD? And I'll just give him a minute.
Yeah, Chief, I'll reach out to them right now and see what's going on if you want to move on to perhaps another report while I get them on board.
Okay, so in the meantime, while we're waiting to get the report from Shelley, I'd like to go to Jim, the town manager, who's serving in the ICS role of Public Information Officer, just to give us a brief overview of some of our public information initiatives.
Thank you, Chief. One of the things that I think the citizens out there really need to understand, as the Public Information Officer, my responsibility is to filter information, get it to Chief Scanzi for release to the community. The model works well. What that does is it gives us continuity of messaging to you, our citizens. So we're working hard on delivering a series of messages. Yesterday, I spoke with Chief Rondo and Captain Livy on Coffee and Connections. We talked about the current operational status of the town, town departments, and what's happening locally. Today, I spoke with a radio station. We're going to be doing a series of 90-second informational bits, public service announcements to our community to get that information out. We take on a regular basis, we give operational updates on Fridays regarding town departments and town operations. That gets put on the town website. We've also, under the town manager's title, we've created a Facebook page, and we are pushing information out there as well. There is a wide array of information that's being distributed. What our focus is right now is to keep you informed on local information. There's no need for us as the emergency management team to repeat a lot of the things that are happening at the state and federal level. You're all being inundated with that, but our focus is keeping information local as to it applying to you. And we seem to be getting the messages out. We're getting positive feedback, and the incident management system was developed for this part of this process, is to get information out to you, our citizens, so you understand what is going on. I think that pretty much sums it up, and I report back to you, Chief Scanzi.
Okay, thank you. Is Shelley able to speak at this time, our health officer, Shelley Rondo? Okay, Matt, did you give him a call over there?
Yeah, I did give Mark a call. He was, I think they're having
muted.
Yeah, but I'm happy to speak if you'd like to give them just a break to try and figure that out. That'd be helpful.
Okay. Why don't you give us a report? Matt is serving as the liaison for the incident management team, and basically Matt's role is to interact with the different agencies that the town uses, both in our normal operations, but certainly during the emergency operation, so that one person is the clearinghouse to deal with all of the different agencies that we might deal with.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. This has been an interesting time for me, particularly stepping into this role. I had an opportunity to engage with a lot of institutional and agency partners within the community that haven't had the experience to do so with over the past couple of years. Starting really a couple of days ago, did a broad campaign of outreach to about 15 community organizations, ranging from Brewster Academy to smaller organizations like 68 Hours of Hunger, the Life Ministries Food Pantry. Those that are really providing critical services to the community that could really be impacted by the current crisis that we're dealing with. I've had a great response through that outreach. I asked all the organizations specifically to provide me with updates on what their services are, and particularly to keep us looped in as their services change moving forward, particularly if they're impacted by the public health emergency that we're dealing with. Through some of this outreach, I've had some unique invitations to actually come see these organizations and see what services they are providing, which has been fantastic. Obviously, trying to do that safely. Just today, I spent an hour at Life Ministries Food Pantry, seeing how their organization has had to adapt, providing meals outside with masks on, and it's really been amazing to see how those different change agents within the community are adapting to these challenges. Moving forward, I'll be providing weekly updates to the EOC and to the folks that are part of the ESFs on these different service agencies. We've got a lot of overlap in the sense that many of our ESFs are actually organizations that I'll be reaching out to and interfacing with directly. But I think the key is really to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction and working on the same common platform of information. And so far, I think I've been very encouraged by what I've been hearing. And subject to any questions, I'm happy to move to the next person.
And we realize that the members of the public that are watching tonight don't necessarily know all of the acronyms that we use. And
Sure.
An ESF is an emergency support function. It's just a name for a unit of management within our group that's taking care of a specific function of the town. Whether it's we actually have set up an ESF for the fire department, the police department, emergency management, many other of the regular sectors of our operation, and other people are fulfilling roles they don't normally fulfill to allow this staff to be able to operate. So I just want to assure everybody in the community that we feel like we have the bases covered. We don't feel like we have COVID-19 under control. Obviously, nobody has that under control, but we feel as though the town has been very proactive in getting this in place, and that we have been doing a great job with planning and trying to stay out ahead of this. So one of our command functions is planning, and Deputy Chief Zadi from Wolfeboro Fire Department is our planning section chief. So I'm going to call on him next to just give us a brief overview of what's going on with planning and how we're looking forward.
Sure. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. My primary role in this is to take the objectives set by the incident commander, in this case, the EMD, Chief Scansey, and work on an incident action plan, a set of instructions, if you will, for primarily the next operational period. In other words, we're trying to look down the road and look ahead, anticipate our needs and what the scenario is going to be and how we would address it. Today, in the last day or two, actually, our primary objective was to secure more personal protective equipment, primarily for our first responders, for us, for the police department, and so forth. And we did have some degree of success with that. We were able to obtain a number of N95 masks, which I'm sure members of the public have heard about on national and state level news and so forth. We're not where we want to be, but we're much better off than we were yesterday. Also, some disposable gowns and so forth, so that we're able to protect our people and our other first responders should this continue to escalate. We've also been working closely with logistics, Captain Livy at the police department, and Huggins Hospital, Janet Williamson, to secure and be ready to open alternative care facilities, which is a nice way of saying facilities to address a surge should the number of patients exceed the capacity of the hospital. We've had a large degree of success. We've identified the site and a potential backup to the backup, and we're continuing to work to make sure we can stand that up on reasonably short notice should the need arise. Beyond that, we continue to just support the goals of the incident command in a variety of ways, making phone calls and contacting people and so forth. I'm in routine contact with the state level EOC on various issues to work on securing equipment and that sort of thing. Essentially, that's it. I try to keep it brief. I'm certainly available to answer any questions that might arise.
Okay, appreciate that, Chief. I'd like to, I'm still looking to see, okay, I see Shelley. Shelley, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Can you?
Yes, we can hear you now. And so at this point, I really would like to ask our health officer to just give us an overview of her role and some of the things that you're working on, Shelley.
So again, I'm Shelley Rondo. I am the town health officer. I'm also a pediatric nurse for Central New Hampshire VNA. So right now, locally working closely with emergency management officer and the Department of Health and Human Services several times a day, checking in, seeing what's happening locally and around us, because that will affect us, and watching how this is progressing within our own community and educating the public, especially about social distance and good hand washing. We need to really be doing that all the time. So also just watching out for any changes with Huggins Hospital and keeping in contact with them on a daily basis. Also, as a nurse for Central New Hampshire VNA, the VNA is out there still seeing clients, seeing and providing services. So that is still being happening, and we will continue to do that throughout this pandemic. I can be reached, the best way to reach me is through Center of Dispatch at the PD, and they can call me, and then I can call the public back if they have questions. And if I don't have the answers, I will find it out for you.
Shelley, we're very thankful for all that you're doing. Janet Williamson is the incident coordinator at Huggins Hospital and liaison to the town's emergency operations center for the hospital. Janet, would you like to take a few minutes and just follow up on Shelley's comments and tell us what the hospital's doing? I see JW. I'm hoping that's Janet.
Chief, do you want me to kind of brief up operations, which include what Janet is up to?
Yep, why don't you do that? That'd be great, Chief.
Sure. So I am Chief Rondo. I'm the Chief of Police, and I'm also the Operations Director for the EOC. So essentially what happens is the plan is developed in concert. Our operations plan is developed in concert with the town and with Huggins Hospital. Right now we're in a support role to Huggins Hospital should they experience a surge of patients relative to COVID-19. We have one alternate care site identified where we would have to set up for overflow. And right now we're in the process of working with Huggins Hospital and the Carroll County Coalition for Public Health to get those needed supplies and equipment and establish a timeline by which we'll execute that setup of an ACS. Right now, relatively speaking, the town of Wolfeboro is in very good shape. And we're not close to needing a surge capacity for the hospital at this point in time. With that being said, we're keeping a very close eye on the census at the hospital and a close eye on the communities around us to help us better determine what is going to happen. We're doing that in concert with Huggins Hospital, with the town's health officer, and the other surrounding communities. Time will tell, and that's essentially where we're at right now. We're in somewhat of a waiting game to see just if and when we're going to have to, if you pardon the pun, pull the trigger on our support operations plan at Huggins Hospital.
And Chief, if Captain Livy with you, and can he give
Yes,
a brief update on Captain Livy is our logistics section chief, and his responsibility with logistics is assisting the town, Huggins, whoever we're working with in this community when there are items that are needed from the state or from private companies and we need to procure them. He's the person who's directing that.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. So basically the logistic part of it is to provide all the support it needs for the incident. So basically I'm the resource guy, and I'm out there trying to find out, basically as we look at this, the COVID-19, all the logistic parts of the pieces for Huggins and whatever the overflow is for the alternate care site. So you look at it all, you have communications, you have medical, you have food, you have supplies, you have facilities, and the ground support that's out there. So I'm the guy that gets everything out there so everyone can perform the job that's at hand.
Okay, thank you. And at this point, Troy Neff is the town finance director, but for this event, he's the finance and administration section chief. So he's really playing a dual role. He's working very closely with our emergency management ESF to make sure that we're in line to get any grants, do the proper documentation so that, you know, when the time comes that federal and state funding is available, that we're right at the forefront of that for the community. So I'll turn it over to Troy at this time.
Thank you, Chief Scanzi. You know, my role in this is really simple. It's just ensuring that every department, every employee has the funds they need to purchase the supplies to protect themselves and to serve the public, you know, to the best of their ability. You know, part of my role right now is to continuously monitor the town's cash flow to ensure that we are well supported, that the town operations can continue without disruption. Currently, our cash levels remain strong. I'm in daily conferencing with the town treasurer to ensure that balances are appropriate, and looking at, you know, different strategies for us to ensure that we are sustainable. You know, Chief Scanzi did mention a significant part now of my role is to make sure that all the documentation is in place, that we are that we have to be reimbursed from FEMA or other federal assistance, that the town receives its share and is compensated for the expenses that it needs to outlay to combat this pandemic. Thank you.
That's great. Appreciate that. I'll conclude by just saying that the town, the emergency is in good hands. This staff is working very diligently. We appreciate too everything that the public is doing. We recognize that this is not a fun time for people, but everyone is doing when we're out and about, what little time we are out and about. We do notice that, it seems as though people are staying at home, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we appreciate that because that, as we've said, the town manager said, that's what's going to help end this in a short period of time. So if any of you have any questions of any of the departments, you can reach them under the normal department phone lines. If there's something relative to the actual COVID-19 emergency that needs to be reported, or a complaint or request for assistance, all through Central Dispatch, that's our clearinghouse, and use the normal emergency numbers for Central Dispatch. And at this point, I'll, yes.
Can you hear me? It's Janet. Yes, I had a technical difficulty.
Okay, well, we're glad you're with us. Go ahead.
All right.
This is Janet Williamson from Huggins.
I'm just for those who don't know me, the EMS coordinator in emergency management. And for my role for this is the incident commander for the hospital. So quick overview, on March 13th, the hospital stood up our incident command and started preparing for this. Obviously with this pandemic, our biggest priority was safety for staff and patients. So we've been working hard to do that and protect it. Number of projects, reduction of non-essential services at the hospital so we're not exposing staff unnecessarily, repurposing some of our staff, working on PPE acquisition. Our biggest plan of late has been the surge plan for the hospital. Unfortunately, with a pandemic, that's what happens. We're a critical access hospital, but in cases like this, we obviously need to expand our capacity significantly. So to that end, we've expanded the hospital capability out to about 39 beds. And then, as Tom had mentioned, working on the alternate care site so we can expand even further. We set up what we call a temporary outpatient clinic so that we could see our sicker respiratory patients in an area separate from all of our other primary practices, again, distancing and keeping people safe. We've worked on testing for people, et cetera. We're going to continue work with the EOC for Wolfeboro. You guys have been fabulous to work with. I'd also just like to say a thank you to the community. In our search for PPE, we've gotten a tremendous number of donations from people and businesses. It's been a huge help. It's going to be, we're in for a good ride ahead, but I think with all the preparations that Wolfeboro's done, that the hospital's done, I think we'll be able to hold our own through this.
Thank you for all that the hospital's doing. I'm at this point, board, that's the end of our report for tonight, unless you have any questions for any of the specific members.
No, I'll just, this is Brad talking. I'll just reach out and say that I think I'm speaking for the board here. We really appreciate all of the work that all of you guys are doing in every aspect of this. This is kind of shows how this town is organized, how it communicates. And, you know, I think with all the hard work you guys are doing, we will be getting through this and through this as well as anybody can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, do you have anything else you want to add to this? Or?
No, I would like to echo those sentiments. The emergency management team has done an absolutely phenomenal job. They've been an absolute pleasure to work with. And I think we can rest a little easier at night knowing that there's somebody on call 24/7 regarding this. The emergency management team is meeting once a week as a full team. The command staff is meeting once a week as a command staff. And we ask ourselves a lot of hard questions, and it's been a good process to this point. And we just hope the citizens out there do the things that are being recommended: social distancing, good personal hygiene, some common sense, and let's get through this pandemic as a community for the betterment of humanity. With that said, I think we're done on the emergency management end, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'll put out right now, I just kind of had an idea while listening to this, that if any of the board members or any of the staff members want to speak, if they just say their name, then I can recognize them, and it probably makes it a little bit clearer and easier for everybody to be able to, you know, chime in on their comments, stuff like that. If that sounds good, we'll just kind of continue on that way. Okay, that being said, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is an update from the tax collector on tax lien notices. Mr. Pino, are you going to handle this?
So I'll give you a quick briefing. I've been in constant contact with the tax collector office. One of the things that we're having the tax collector's office do, the town clerk's office do, in conjunction with the finance office, is to report revenues and look at expenses on a weekly basis to see how we're doing. In these conversations, there's been a couple of items that have come up specific to the town's tax collector office. And really the first one boils down to tax liens. We've got a little bit of a snag with our software package that we utilize for the tax bills. The only way the tax collector can begin to populate the new year and the spring tax bills is she's got to do the tax liens. Obviously, liening properties right now is obviously a sensitive subject, but we have to do it in an effort to start the next tax bill process. So I believe you have in your packet a letter that the tax collector has drafted. We've been obviously working with people if they're having difficulty paying their bills. They have a number to reach out to speak to the tax collector's office, and we can work with them. What we're asking is, number one, we want to send the tax liens out. Number two, we want to attach the letter, and we want to be able to work with our citizens if they're having a difficult time. The only other caveat that I would say to this is we don't know what is going to be coming down from the state in the coming days and weeks as far as emergency orders to help us as a town navigate through this as far as liens, as far as interest, and those types of things. So if those emergency orders come out, that makes it easy for us. But right now, we need some guidance from the Board of Selectmen, and we're really asking permission to put the liens out. But we want to attach the letter saying, look, we know we're all going through a hard time, but we need to get these out, and we will work with you on this process. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you or the other board members may have.
Do we have any questions or comments from anybody?
Linda?
Yes, Linda, go ahead.
I felt that the letter from our tax collector was pretty clear, and I think Jim has explained it, that we need to do this in order to close one year and get into the next, and that we need to do it in a timely fashion. And I'm comfortable we send a letter explaining why we have to do it in this manner. And as with Jim, I hope that the governor will come through with something that helps us here. But at this time, I'm willing to support this, and when we're ready, I have a motion.
Paul, ditto.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else have any comments? I agree too. I think it's something we have to do. It's an unfortunate thing probably, but moving forward, we might be able to address this later on as we get into the process on any type of leniency or anything that we decide to do. So we can address that at a later date. So I would entertain that motion, Linda, if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. I move to send out the notice as soon as possible to lien the property and have it executed by May 15th and send a letter acknowledging the hard times.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second by Dave Bowers on that. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll vote. Brad Harriman will vote in favor of this.
Paul O'Brien, yes.
Dave
Linda
Bowers,
Murray, yes.
And Dave Bowers, I don't know if I heard your vote.
Dave, yes.
Okay. We have all voted in affirmative of that. It passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Proposal to postpone water rate increase.
Yeah, so this is kind of along the same lines relative to the billing and collections office. Brenda and I have had some in-depth conversations, and we know that the water sewer rates are supposed to experience an increase at this time. However, we're not sure, based on the environment we're in and trying to be as conscientious to our citizens as we can, that right now is a great time. We understand that there's the asset management plan that focuses on this. I think the issue here is the asset management plan is a long-term problem. Postponing these rate increases for 1 quarter is a good thing to do. It's the right thing to do for people out there who are struggling right now. And you know, again, that's a short-term fix to a long-term problem. So I would entertain any questions that you may have regarding this.
Linda?
This is Brad talking. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
My only question is, can we do it so we look at July, and then when July comes, that we are able to look at the next quarter as we really get a feeling of the economic hit onto this community?
Yeah, I think that's very feasible. I had a very brief conversation with Dave Ford regarding this. I didn't get a positive. I didn't get a negative. I think he understands. And I agree wholeheartedly. You know, if all of a sudden this COVID-19 emergency burns out in the next 3 weeks, then we're probably going to be in okay shape. But if this thing goes on for 3, 4, 5 months, then we may want to revisit this at the next quarter.
Hey, Jim, this is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I would assume Troy and Dave could probably spin up a spreadsheet in very short order that answers Linda's question. And this is, we're not talking about a water or sewer system where we're adding a lot of new customers. We have a fixed set of customers. All we're trying to figure out is what's the toggle between a rate increase now and a rate increase later on the operations of the business. So I think this is probably, first of all, I agree that we should postpone this. But secondly, I think we should probably get like a 1-page piece of paper that basically says, here's what we need to do, and here's what it's going to cost us to have done it. That's all.
Brad,
together.
Brad, this is Linda. I agree with Paul. We do need the financial statement to know what it's costing us. And I think it was a 2.5% raise. It was not a large raise, but we should have a sheet that says, okay, this is what happened in this quarter. If we go another quarter, this is what happens. And if we go another quarter, that's what happens. I think we need to make our decisions based on that kind of information, but I'm comfortable with doing the first quarter.
Me too. This is Paul, me too.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree too with that. So I would entertain a motion if somebody has one. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, we can certainly put together some matrices going forward as to what that might look like, not only for this quarter, but if it extends out for an extended period of time.
Thank you, Jim.
Does somebody have a motion they'd like to read into this then?
Brad, I can do one. I make a motion that we postpone the water and sewer rate increase that was to take place on 3/1/2020 until the July bills.
Second. This is Paul.
We have motion by Linda and a second by Paul. Any other discussion? Call for a roll vote. I'll vote in favor of that. Linda?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Dave?
Yes.
Okay, we have a 4-0 vote on that in favor, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the Municipal Electric Capital Project Status Report. Were you going to update us on that, Jim, at all, or?
Barry is here.
Okay.
And Barry will take care of that. I'll hand it.
Yeah.
to him.
I'm all set. Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, Barry.
Everybody can hear me. Get a phone call going here. Yeah, so the electric department's $3.675 million conversion project has come along well. The first part of it being the substation, the new substation down at the Glendon Street parking lot. All the engineering has been done for that. The design, the equipment has all been ordered, awarded, bid. The contractor has actually been awarded. We haven't officially signed the contract for the construction of that, but that should happen even as soon as tomorrow. So we're in good shape at the substation. At the same time, we have the bid out for the distribution end of it, which is North Main Street and Forest Road. We did delay that bid opening for a week. People were having a struggle a little bit getting pricing on some of the components required for that due to this the coronavirus here and some of the delays and supplies. So we will be opening the bid for that tomorrow. All the transformers for that portion have been ordered, so we're in pretty good shape there. The third phase of it, which will be North Main Street beyond Forest Road out to Tuftonboro, we're sort of on a holding pattern that until we find out the bid results for tomorrow, to find out if we need to maybe cut back on the scope of that, because that could be a place where we may have to do that, shorten the scope to be able to handle some of the financial costs for it. So at this point, we've approximately expended actually $202,000, but we've encumbered or awarded contracts in the amount of $1.65 million. So yeah, we're in pretty good shape. We hope to get construction going this summer. Unfortunately, because some of the lead times on the substation transformers, et cetera, those items won't be in till the fall. So that's sort of going to be the driver to the schedule. So I'd entertain any questions that you may have. If not, appreciate it.
Thank you, Barry. Anybody have any questions for Barry? Seeing none. Okay, we will move on here. Let's see, next on is our finance report, revenue and expenditure report for February.
Yes, good evening. So it's kind of weird here. We're going to talk about February as we're actually closing out March as we speak. But where we were on a ratio basis, with our target funding rate of 16.66%. For the general fund, we ended at 16.483%, which is a positive variance of 0.183%. The water fund was at 6.807%, so that's a favorable variance of 9.859%. The electric fund was 22.771%, which is a negative variance of 6.105%. But looking at, there's some reclass of expenses that will occur as some of the project expenses for the capital outlay that you just heard about for the project was put into the operating budget side as opposed to the capital project side. From the sewer fund, they're at 49.340%. Again, that's the majority of that is the Wooden Current contract. So that's a negative variance of 32.674%. But that's, if put in perspective, in 2019, at the end of February, the sewer fund was at 58.428%. So they're actually doing better in their expenses compared to 2019. Pop Whalen comes in at 15.412%, or favorable variance of 1.254%. On an overall rate, we come in at 19.581%, which is a negative variance of 2.915%. We sort of take a look at where revenues for the end of the month in February. The general fund brought in $328,717 as compared to February of 2019 was $492,504. But in that number, there's over $101,000 miscellaneous donation and $53,000 worth of miscellaneous grants. So if you adjust that, the 2019 level, it was $337,999. So that on an adjusted basis would mean that 2020 is running $9,282 behind the 2019 adjusted level. The water fund brought in for the end of February $102,544 as compared to $109,546. So that's a negative variance of $7,002. The electric fund brought in $859,802 as opposed to in 2019 $947,924. That's a negative variance of $88,122. Barry and I are working offline to ensure that we are documenting and understanding why the electric fund it seems to be off, and we've provided him reports, and we'll get back as we understand more. So the sewer, oh, you got something, Barry? You're on mute.
I'm sorry, Troy, if I could just interject, I did have some time this afternoon to look the electric fund earnings and revenue over. And there's a couple reasons I think that stands out between February 19 versus 20. We sold approximately 400,000 less kilowatt hours this February due to the weather, such a mild February compared to 2019. That's probably $60,000 worth of that difference. And the other thing is, in February of 2019, we did not have the Reggie rebate going on. So that money was accumulating in the account, but it wasn't going out, which we are distributing Reggie money this past February. So I think that's where the discrepancy lies.
How big is this is Paul. Barry, how big is the Reggie money? It's not a big number, is it?
It's about $30,000, Paul.
Okay.
For the month of February is what it equated to.
Okay. Thanks.
And then, like I said, it was approximately $60,000 less in the value of the sold electricity due to the weather. So.
Sure.
So if we take that 60,000 and the difference in the kilowatt hours and the Reggie, then we're running even with 2019 levels. The sewer fund brought in $298,013 as compared to $210,827 in 2019. So that's $87,186 more. Pop Whalen brought in $37,767 for the month of February. In 2019, it looks like there was a general ledger reclass, so they actually showed a negative revenue in February of $22,286. So they're actually running a positive variance of $60,053. We look at in total for the month of February, all funds that was brought in $1,626,843. When we adjust for the general fund, as mentioned earlier, that was $584,010. So we have a positive balance of $42,833. And then you add in the difference or the explanation, just from volume from the electric department, and we are running on track. So that is the financial report that I have. There are two other items I would like to update the board on. One is the audit. Due to the COVID-19, Robertson Green is actually rescheduling all clients as they do not want to be on premise. We are looking for a June, July date and working with having the audit being completed and the report being issued in September. As well as we had posted for the IT coordinator position. We did receive 2 applicants and we'll be scheduling interviews using GoToMeeting shortly.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Any board members have any questions or comments for Troy? Hearing none, I guess we'll move on now to 2020 capital projects.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, I think it's based on the environment we're in. I think it's very prudent that we take a look at the 2020 capital projects and take some consideration of them going forward. You know, again, if this COVID-19 burns out in fairly short order, then we're probably not going to see a whole lot of issues. But if this issue continues for, you know, 10, 12 weeks, we're going to have to make some adjustments to the way we're going to conduct business here as a community. So I think it's critically important that while we don't have to make decisions tonight, we certainly have to be thinking of them in the near future relative to the work that's supposed to be done in town. We're sharpening our pencils here within the various departments to look at ways that we may be able to contain our budgets going forward if this COVID-19 virus gets worse. But I would like to get some input on the board and some direction.
I guess one thought I have, this is Brad talking, one thought I have would be, if we had some of these, or most of these projects ready on paper to go so that when this thing finally breaks, we all get in a better place, that we would be able to then get them moving fairly quickly rather than have to go through a process of getting ready for bid and all that kind of stuff. If it's all ready at that stage, it might speed up that process later this summer. We still be able to get some of this work done during this fiscal year for us. So just a thought I had on if anybody has any comments or.
I think maybe Dave Ford could give us an update. He usually has status reports, maybe at our next meeting with a spreadsheet, and we could look at that.
So I can answer that question. Dave is scheduled to be at the next Board of Selectmen's meeting with a capital projects update. He's got some good news with some of the projects that are ongoing now. And to your point, Brad, he has, we are continuing to tee up the projects, but he understands that we may be on a short leash and have to not execute those, but he is continuing to work on those projects.
Okay, sounds good. Chairman. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, and Jim, and thanks for teeing up the question. Under the first things first is, you know, under the predicate that we're going to keep people safe and not get anybody put in any way, shape, or form in any danger or harm, I'd suggest we take a look at 3 buckets of projects that we must do. And I'm sure there's 1 or 2 out there that, you know, that we really think we got to do. And then I'd have a bucket that says projects we should do. And those are projects that we could look at and say, you know what, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're a 5, but they're not a 10. And then there are projects that, you know, we're going to come back to normal and not in a flash. We're going to come back to normal more in kind of a slow, gradual build. So I would have a 3rd bucket that says do later. And even though those projects may lapse and we may have to go back to the voters next year and ask the question again, I would say, you know, there are things out there that we just got to get done. as long as we're not putting anybody in deep harm or deep safety issues. So must do, should do, do later. And any precursor work about sending out requests for bid, I did see the governor has today in his new executive order has provided us with some ability to be a little more flexible in terms of how we can do bids and how we can do stuff like that. You know, we can't get stupid and not bid things, but I think there's a little more flexibility built in. That would be my advice to you guys, Jim. Thanks.
Well, Brad?
Yes, Linda.
I agree with Paul. We need to sort. I would put it in. He'll put it in buckets. I will say, you know, sort them into categories on, and I'm more than happy using Paul's category. So we have a plan. That's what I'm looking for. A plan to move forward through our projects. But I also think not only the projects, but we also have to look at the work that is not financially connected that we need to get done. We need to get done. We have an issue with the Albee Beach access. We have the warrant articles on the beaches. And how do we move through? What are those projects we need to do first to work our way through and start getting a work plan and get this on the agendas and get moving? Because I think the community will feel better knowing that we are moving forward and taking care of the projects that need to be done.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so I think we got, I think, Jim, we got kind of a, you know, good idea and a good plan of moving forward and how, you know, we'll address these coming up as the as this crisis continues here and as we come out of it. So
yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree, and I appreciate this feedback. A lot of these issues that have been brought up, we were actually starting to work on, and then all of a sudden the emergency occurred with COVID-19. So that a lot of these things, while they're on the back burner, they are still a work in progress, and the beaches were one of them that we had met just before this whole thing occurred, and we had some planning meetings there. But I would anticipate the way things are going now, we should be able to in the next couple of weeks get back to having some meetings with staff relative to that. And this platform of GoToMeeting is going to be helpful for us to be able to execute those meetings and get some productive work done. So I thank you for that input.
All right.
And then,
thank you,
Mr. Vice Chairman, if I could
just,
yeah, and I don't know what if Linda was maybe you know, giving us a hint here, but you know, I'll just put it on the table. We have a warrant article that talks about what are we going to do with our beaches. And I think that, you know, that's not a capital project. That's going to be a set of policy conversations that we should probably, and I know, Jim, you've teed that one up before. You know what hit the fan here. So that one's got to get looked at. And I think that's fair game for some policy chat. And so I think if that's what Linda was saying, you know, even above and beyond the capital stuff, there's just stuff we got to get about doing. I think, and I know, you know, and I'm not suggesting you're not doing it. I know that we just got to get about doing it. We're going to get back to normal at some point in time, hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is reorganization of the board. I just like to put out for comment and see where it goes, is to postpone this until we can probably sit down as a board together as a group like we normally do to do this. I just think it'd be difficult to do under this format right now. Plus, we don't have Dave Senecal on with us tonight, so I'd like to, you know, maybe put on the agenda for the next meeting and see where we're at with that. And then, you know, if we need to put it off again, we can do that. So I don't know if other people want to feed in on that.
I agree.
I guess my feeling is I don't want us to run too far down the line. I think Dave Senecal should be here to be part of that vote. I'm very comfortable, but I don't want to not do it and not do it. I think, we've generally had a process of moving the vice chair up and then putting somebody else in the vice chair that'll go up the following year. And I think we can easily do that, but everybody should be there.
Yep, I agree. Paul, do you have any input on that?
It's fine by me.
Okay. All right, so we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting on the 15th, and let's see if we can do it then. Okay, next on the agenda is other business. Do we have anybody with any other business to bring up tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to committee reports, which I'm going to assume is going to be a fairly quick one also tonight. Linda, I'll start with you on committee reports.
Yes, I have a couple. Last night, I attended by a video conference, a Right to Know workshop with New Hampshire Municipal Association. It reviewed the Right to Know law and then talked about the changes that were made by the Governor's Order 12 related to the COVID-19. I was pleased that after the workshop that the documents that we had put together had met those requirements, that we were well prepared. We had a video conferencing with a designated telephone line, and I was pleased that we were ready to go. And I think Jim was listening, and I think Amy also went to that. So that was a great workshop for me. And I also have listened in to 2 Emergency Operations Center meetings that happen each Wednesday. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Linda. Paul, do you have any reports?
Yeah, a couple of things, actually. Linda and I met with Warren Muir we used Zoom to meet with Warren the other day to have a conversation about how we go forward with our Wolfeboro Waters committee and team. While we're on the subject of Wolfeboro Waters, for those of you out there in TV land, we have turned up the Wolfeboro Waters website. You can access it either by going into the town hall, town website, or you can go to wolfeborowaters.com or .org. And I want to thank Mr. Bowers, and I want to thank a bunch of people who contributed some beautiful photography. So if you're a little sick and tired of looking at some of the stuff you're looking at on TV and you want to see some really beautiful, beautiful photography and images of our great town and our waters, not only to mention there's some good data there, come take a look, take a test drive. We're going to update this thing with with information every day. So what you see today is going to change tomorrow, and that's kind of the model here. I've been in touch with Atlantic Broadband, and something on our website that Atlantic Broadband sent up to us the other day that they're opening up services for folks that are homeschooling their kids. They're opening up their bandwidth to make sure we don't choke. I was telling Linda this morning, the internet right now, the whole internet traffic is up by almost 40%. And so keeping the internet alive is important. I've talked to Verizon as well, and I've also talked to T-Mobile. And as Linda has done, I have attended 2 of the emergency management team meetings. And, frankly, folks, these guys are amazing what they're doing for us. They're just amazing. That's my report, Brett. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Dave, do you have any reports, any meetings you went to?
No, I've been working on the history of Wolfeboro in coordination with Mark Lush, unofficial project documenting some of the places around Wolfeboro, like Gilmanton Ironworks, the Rollin Park, and so forth. And that's sort of a private project that I'll work with the Historical Society doing, but nothing specifically as a town selectman.
All right, thank you, Dave. Myself, I don't haven't had too much to do. We didn't meet the last meeting, but we obviously all got together for the elections in March. There, we're all together at the town hall for that. And the next day, also, we did have a meeting with the Friends of Libby Museum, and it's been pretty quiet since then because of the COVID-19 thing that's been coming around. So that's all I have. Town managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. As you're well aware, it's been a busy couple of months. Few weeks have been very interesting. Since the governor has declared a state of emergency in the state of New Hampshire, as of today, there's been 23 emergency orders which have been issued. The Order 23 is pretty in-depth. We'll be getting into that tomorrow. That gives us a little more latitude as far as meetings are concerned. So we'll be studying that tomorrow. We are working diligently to comply with all of those orders from the governor. And it seems to be working. The team here is phenomenal, has been working hard. We've also, as of today, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act has come into play. Our HR department, myself, and some department heads have been working diligently on studying that. We've reached out to Primex, we've reached out to our local council, so that we're following the rules of that act as best we can. There's some challenges with it, and that's been expressed by Primex and legal counsels. As far as town is concerned, we're working virtually at town offices. It seems to be working well. The staff has done a phenomenal job of adapting and getting up to speed. The other thing that we need to do is we need to recognize those other people out there who are working. We've got a highway department who is out there on the front lines every day, keeping our town clean and doing an excellent job. And I know that there's concerns with them as well. But it's a challenging time, and our goal here is to keep people employed as long as we possibly can and get through this. So everything right now, for all intents and purposes, has been positive in a very difficult time. With that said, as far as other projects in the town, we've ordered a police cruiser. Parks and Rec has ordered their vehicle. They got an excellent price on the vehicle, so that's been ordered. The sidewalk plow has been purchased. We will be putting in for a capital request out of the capital reserve fund on that. I believe we also have purchase orders coming through for the water department backhoe, which would come from the water fund. So we're getting some of these purchases executed right now, but we're also keeping an eye on the bottom line and where we may be able to streamline things going forward. Other than that, we're just continuing to plug away every day, and we hope to get back onto some of these normal projects in the coming week. That's about all I have for you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. I also just like to take a moment too to say that I really appreciate the fact that Mr. Pino has been keeping the Board of Selectmen up to date daily with reports coming out since this whole outbreak started. The commitment to the communication has just been outstanding. So I want to thank you, Jim, for that. That's been great to stay updated with all that.
You're very welcome.
Next on the agenda, we have questions from the press. I don't know if Alyssa is on with us tonight at all, or anybody else from the press have any questions of the...
Yes, I am, Brad. I don't have questions so much as appreciation for this go-to-meeting event. It's wonderful to see all of you together because as we go about town and go about our business, we don't see people. And here you all are, and it's evident that everyone is doing a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Yes, thank you, Alyssa. Now, I guess we'll move on to public input. If there's a way, hope there's other people out there that want to come in and speak to us.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, if I could, Matt Sullivan, I just wanted to comment that we have not received any written comments to the email address that was provided on the public notice as of this time. We do have a few folks that have joined us on the GoToMeeting. I just want to remind folks, I see Mary has unmuted herself. You do have the ability to unmute yourself and ask a question during this time. So please do feel free to do that. And I also want to remind folks that might be listening via the traditional Channel 25 or on the Community TV's YouTube, that if you are interested in participating directly in the meeting, we do encourage you to use the GoToMeeting platform. Instructions for doing that are available on the Town of Wolfeboro website right on the front page. You're able to do that through your smartphone, computer, or other devices as well. But we really want to offer the opportunity to the public to engage directly in the meeting, and that's the best way to do that. But with that said, I'm happy to assist with any comments if the public has any technical difficulties.
All right, thank you, Matt.
It doesn't seem that we have anybody requesting to speak or unmuting themselves to speak. But Mary, I do see you're unmuted again.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to thank all the staff here, Matt, Jim, and I'm assuming Community TV is working with you there also on putting this format out there and making this possible for us to do this tonight. As Alyssa alluded to, I think it's great that people can come in and see that we are still working. We're behind the scenes a lot right now, obviously, but I want to put a thank you out to you folks for all the work you've done to get us to this point right now, and it's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Brad, just wanted to say I want to thank the Board of Selectmen for being open to this approach. I'll admit, before the meeting, I was a little bit nervous about how things were going to go this evening, but I think this has worked tremendously well. I'm really encouraged by it, and I just want to thank you all for playing ball with us using this new tool. So thank you so much.
All right, thanks. All right, since we have no other business tonight, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Dave Bowers, a second by Linda to adjourn the meeting. Call for a roll vote. Brad Harmon will vote yes. Paul?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
And Dave?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, and everybody just stay safe.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.